And I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous, man, you know? And of course, he comes up to me in the coffee break room and, you know, would you like to go out to dinner? I said, sure, you know? So, yeah, we were on. Listen, I haven't had a man in years at this point, and Lawrence to me was gorgeous. You know, I mean, he wasn't somebody I would see myself with long term. Okay, granted, I just want to fuck the shit out of him for a little while and be happy. You know, I figured I've got a couple of years clean. I've deserved it. You know what I mean? Then we were planning on going down to Atlantic City for the weekend. Okay, so we didn't really make it out of town. We got to a hotel. You know, he just kind of looked at me. Said, "You want to check in somewhere?" I said, yeah." You know, we were on. Worst sex I had in my life. Oh my God.
Oh, Lawrence.
You know?
Lawrence.
Oh, it was bad.
That's not good because you're an expert. You're an expert.
Oh man. 5 minutes later, I'm going, get me out of here. You know? I mean, so I was just kind of like, okay, like, how do I get him home? And I started, you know, like figuring out I've got to get this guy back home. So yeah. I said something about I wasn't feeling well.
Wow.
How about we call this a day?
Denied.
Let me take you back home.
Lawrence.
You know? And
oh,
so I took him back home, and there were bags all over his front lawn. See, what he did not tell me was that he was living with a woman at the time that he went out with me, who did not take well to the idea of him going off for the weekend with me. So she had taken all of his clothing and belongings and thrown them out in the lawn and thrown him out of his house.
Oh, that's a long
day. So he picks his things up and he goes, I don't have anywhere to go. And I said, you didn't tell me you were living with somebody, you know? And he goes, I don't have anywhere to go. And I'm going, now you're moving in with me? He goes, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm like, oh my God, you know? I mean, he had nowhere to go. What do I do?
Yeah.
So I took him home.
I mean, Lawrence, to give you an idea where he came from, he had been molested as a child by his father. His father was a drug dealer from Puerto Rico. And as I start talking to him, you know, and he tells me the story about the alien abduction, I freak out. And he said something came out of the lake. He said he was down there swimming, and that's all he remembers. Is that something came out of the lake, and then he said when he like sort of came to, he said he felt physically violated. So I mean, maybe they did. All he told me is he felt really violated. So I think that, you know, did the anal probe thing or something, you know.
Oh my God. So what do you mean something came out of the water? Is there any detail at all, or you just?
No, he just told me that some kind of craft came out of the lake, and. Because remember, he told me the story once. I got the story out of him once. Supposedly, there's a road, a highway, onto this lake that actually has a sign warning of UFO activity. And there's photos of it you can see online. I mean, there is a lot of people that have had encounters at this lake. But he said when he woke up on the ground, he felt violated. So he knew that something had happened to him. You know? He says his brother was abducted with him. And he said... his brother actually died of suicide a few years after that.
Oh my God. So, oh man, it's too bad there's only so little of detail there, but that's crazy. So we don't have to stick on that. I haven't
been able to get him to talk to me about it much after. There was this, I think it was Harvard or Cornell, one of these top Ivy League universities. The guy's name was John Mack. He was the head of psychiatry at like top university. He went out and studied all these people that claimed to have had alien abduction experiences. And he comes back and he says, there really is something going on here. And they do need treatment. And he actually created like a treatment, you know, and I mean, this is like the head of this top university publishing. He did like a 5-year study of people that have been abducted. I mean, there must be a lot of people having this because counselors were coming to learn how to treat somebody that's had an alien abduction experience. And I'll never forget this. I said, according to all this research that Max put together, you should have a scar on one of your knees of a half moon, either on your knee or on one of your shoulder blades. And I asked him to let me see. And he had a scar of a half moon on his right knee. If your story's true, and looking at the scar, looking at your experience, I'm believing you, right? That something happened.
Oh
I
my
mean,
god, this is so okay, ladies and gentlemen. You hearing this? We're going
well,
deep.
it's
We're going deep
logical to
today.
me. Well, this is part of my. Well, I mean, if you were to look at the data and see how many people are saying that not only did this happen to them, and all this evidence that's coming out, surgeons are pulling implants out of people. I'm not kidding you.
No,
Surgeons are pulling
I have.
even the scars. I mean, they're saying that the scars are either on the right knee or the right shoulder blade, and I actually had him pull up his pant leg and show him, and he had a scar on his right knee, and I can see Lawrence's problem. He's not going to go into treatment saying, "Oh, I've got all these problems because of an alien abduction." He's not going to say that. He turns to drugs. He runs away from home. He hits the streets because he can't cope with what he said happened to him. So he tells me that he just couldn't cope with this whole thing. So at 13, he runs away from home in New York. So he's now on the streets at 13 in New York. Well, what does a young, good-looking boy do? He turns into male prostitution. This is where we bonded in a lot of ways, okay? But when he hit 16 and he got to be over 6 feet tall, he's a big man. He, of course, graduated pimping. And his story is that, he'd fallen in love with this one girl that he was pimping, and another pimp had tried to take her from him and killed her. He, in revenge, killed the pimp. So he's got a rough life going.
God.
His body,
Christ.
let me tell you, his body is covered with gang tattoos, scars from stabbings, scars from shootings. I mean, he's had a rough life on the streets in New York. Now, his drug addiction had gotten so bad at this point, he started turning to armed robbery. So he starts actually holding up armed robbery massage parlors because he knows, I told you, we're the target of bandits that know that most places where there's prostitution aren't going to call the cops. So he starts doing armed robberies of massage parlors in New York. He eventually gets caught, and he gets sent up to prison for 2 years for an armed robbery charge. I've seen his criminal record, so I know this is true. It was in prison for this armed robbery that he found Narcotics Anonymous and got clean. Okay, and
he was a bipolar manic depressive who was on lithium. He came at me with a spatula and shoves me up against the wall. So he has this violent episode, and I'm going, okay, you cannot stay here. He's all, I'm sorry. Let me make it up to you. We can work it out. Again, worst sex of my fucking life. And then it was over. He just looks at me, and I go back downstairs. And, that wasn't going to work. So he went back down to the basement where, that was not going to work. But I conceived Gabby that night.
Wow. So there she is.
So she barely came into existence.
She barely made it.
But she barely made it. That one opportunity to get in. So yeah, she barely made it in.
That's so funny though.
God. And then all of a sudden I start puking, and I'm getting the morning sickness. And I'm going, oh, no. If I tell him I'm pregnant, I'll never get rid of him. Never. Oh, my God. So I was telling everybody, please don't tell Lawrence I'm pregnant, And, of course, everybody told Lawrence I was pregnant. So he starts telling everybody how we're going to get married, and I'm going to have this kid, and we're going to live happily ever after. But in the meantime, he's having these crazy demonic episodes, right?
So there was no proposal. It was just kind of like a forced. I don't want to say forced, but
Well, he proposed to me back in Allentown. We were watching television in our underwear, and he hands me a ring and it's like, and made a proposal, and I said I don't want to get married just because of the kid, and no, I want to be married to you, yada yada. So I'm really not wanting. I know a marriage isn't going to work. And it's going to be another mouth for me to feed. I'm going to have my hands full with the kid is the way that I'm looking at it. And I'll tell you why. What happened is when I left in October, I started to pack my things. And Lawrence went, you're only going to be gone for a couple of days. Why are you packing everything? And I was like, oh. He goes, I'm not letting you go. You're never coming back. He wasn't stupid. Now, what I did was I convinced him that I was only going to go visit my mother before the baby was born. So I had only packed a few clothes because if I packed anything else, he would not have let me out of the apartment.
It's unbelievable.
So grandmother, mother, and Lawrence all seemed to be of the mind that I needed to be married before she was born.
Yeah.
So they were all trying to tell me that I had to marry him before she was born or she was going to be a bastard. And I'm like, I'm just looking at my blood pressure going through the roof, right? Because, I'm just thinking, I just want to have this kid because, and then there he is. And I'm going, no, because in my mind, he's an out of control bipolar.
Was he mad? Was he like, what? You know what I mean?
Well,
what
as
was that
I'm
conversation?
like, what are you doing here? As I'm like, what are you doing here? How did you find this place? Grandma's standing there smiling her ass off. She's like, you two needed to be together. You have a baby coming, and you should be together, and you guys need to work this out. Oh,
Great.
I'm like looking at her going, Grandma, this is not normal problems, okay? This is not just like we need relationship therapy. I mean, I thought I'd explained to her the guy was out of his freaking tree, and he was dangerous, and he would lock me in the house for weeks on end, right? I mean, I barely got out of Allentown. I had to lie and say I was going away for the weekend just to get out of the apartment.
Yeah, that's not good.
And here he is now sitting in the car. I'm like, I know he doesn't have a job. I know he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have a car. I'm like, and all Grandma's just going, well, family needs to be together, and you two need to talk. And I'm like, no, Grandma. Now, mind you, she's in a one-bedroom apartment. My mother is sleeping on the couch. Where are we even going to put this man? I mean, we're all in this one-bedroom apartment, right? And I'm just like, I'm so angry. I can't even speak, And it's funny because I do remember I lost it. I started like really angry, like I couldn't even cope with it. And I started to just walk off. I mean, I was just like, I can't even cope with this. I need to get out of here. I started to go back to my car. I didn't know where I was going to go, what I was going to do, but I just had to get away from these two lunatics. I remember Lawrence even reached out to grab me because he's arguing with me, trying to get me to stay there and talk to him. And as he grabbed me and tried to grab my purse and my keys away from me to stop me from leaving, he broke my finger.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
The shoulder strap. Yeah, great start. He breaks the shoulder strap on my purse, grabbing my purse. And as he's grabbing the keys, he actually fractured my finger. So, now I've got to contend with this finger issue. So I'm in the ER that night, And I mean, I can see he's doing it out of love. I can see he's doing it because, he obviously wants to be a family. I get that. But, grabbing me and breaking my finger when I'm upset, it's like not the way to do it, right?
No, it's not.
So he's saying we got to get married now before the baby's born. And I'm going, So,
yeah, fuck that.
His mother, my grandmother, and him plotted the wedding. So they had plotted that I was going to get married whether I like it or not.
It's like a surprise birthday party, only it's a wedding.
Kind of like that, because all of a sudden Lawrence pops on me. Everything's set. We're getting married. Get in the car. And I'm going, no, I'm not marrying you. So this huge row. And he's screaming at me, we're getting married, There's something about, we were yelling all the way to the church. I'm going, I'm not marrying you, you son of a bitch. And he's just, you're marrying me. I mean, just back and forth all the way down to the church, right?
Yeah, what two lovebirds we have here? Oh, my God.
Oh, well, this is where it gets wilder. But when we walked in the church, the minister pulls me and my mother over and says, I can't go forward with the ceremony yet. Why? And the minister says that Lawrence is being demonically oppressed, and that's why he's having these episodes. He can see it in Lawrence's eyes, and that he needs to do a deliverance on Lawrence before he'll consent to the marriage. Now, that just freaked me the fuck out. I mean, you can imagine I'm essentially being told that my fiance is demonically possessed by this minister. Okay?
Yeah.
Minister sits down to Lawrence and starts explaining to him that he thinks that there's a demonic entity that is controlling him, that is trying to block our marriage, trying to kill the baby, yada yada, and he asked for Lawrence's consent to do a deliverance. Now, mind you, Lawrence has been throwing me in the car and yelling at me all the way over there, and his eyes are that black again, okay? Because when he'd have these episodes, his eyes would go black. His energy would go black, you know? And it was a pretty strange experience to watch this minister lay hands on him and deliver him, and Lawrence change. I watched him change.
When you say deliver, what do you mean by that? Like what?
Puts his hand on his head and starts doing an exorcism. And Lawrence, I mean, it was like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like Jekyll and Hyde. He changed into somebody else.
How long did it take?
The
Was it like,
went away.
Did he flip out? I mean, what was I just wanted
He'd been flipping out. He'd been angry, and his energy was dark, and his face was hard, and I did not see any love out of there. Let's put it that way. I mean, there's all this anger, but then when the guy laid hands on him, his whole spirit changed. His eyes changed, his face changed, his energy changed, and he became meek. He became like a lamb. I mean, I couldn't even explain it. This is too much information for me. I'm like, oh great, now I'm marrying a guy that just been demonically possessed and exorcised. You know, I freak out and I go lock myself in the bathroom.
Oh my God. So hold on a second. I'm sorry to keep stabbing at this. So he puts his hand on him, and how long does that take? Does he say any prayers? Like, I don't know how this works.
Yeah. Well, it happened so fast. He started saying prayers. Yeah, he did start saying, I don't remember what prayer.
Yeah, but that's fine.
I don't, but I saw something strange happening. There was an energy coming off the preacher. Lawrence changed into somebody else in front of my eyes, and it was pretty mind-blowing to watch. But I also couldn't really handle this. That's why I just freaked out and went and locked myself in the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, that's insane that just happened. So now you're seeing this all happen. It's stressful. It's your wedding day, and
yeah, this is my wedding night, right?
So you go to the bathroom.
So now he tells me that Lawrence is now delivered.
Yeah, I mean, this is insane. Just to let you know.
It is. I felt like I was watching a freaking lunatic asylum in front of me. I mean, that's why I went and locked myself in the bathroom. Told my mother, get rid of him. I'm not marrying this guy. Send him home. Just get me out of here right now. My mom says, look. All this fighting that you're doing on marrying him is what's making your blood pressure high. She says, look, she goes, just marry him. Just get it over, get grandma off the back, get everybody happy, stop fighting, and then have the baby and then divorce him.
That's the plan? That just seems like
it's
prolonging.
She goes, and she's like, look, he's not leaving without getting married. Grandma's not going to let him leave without getting married. She's like, just stop arguing with everybody, marry him, have the kid, then divorce him. She's like, this is just something you just need to go through. She said, maybe he will change after the marriage. Okay, fine. Maybe he'll change after the marriage. I mean, I was just wanted to get everybody shut up and off my back, right? So, yeah, I said, okay. Tell everybody fine, I'll come out and marry him.
So what is that like? I mean, so all this happens, and then you come out of the bathroom. Well, you just all right,
Yeah, I said, okay, let's go, let's do it.
What a disaster!
So
this is the worst wedding I've ever. This is the worst wedding I've ever heard.
I'm telling you, I know. By the morning, when I realized, I find him on the couch. He goes, well, I know you were tired. I said, don't try to lay this off on me. Really? You couldn't even come to the same bed with me? Really? So.
All right. So I knew that was going to be a whole story. I just wasn't expecting to be that story.
Well, it was in my childhood days. Oh, Lord, many long years ago. Now with the Spirit, now of my Savior, I was filled, Lord filled, oh, in that old fascinating, oh Lord, I'm memories, they linger still in that little, oh, that wooden church house out on a hill. You know every Sunday morning, help when we had the family prayer, then to that old country wagon, oh, would feel, oh, Lord, oh, would feel, well, we go on a journey, moving over rocks, God knows and real, to that little, oh, that wooden church house out on a hill. Well, when that old-fashioned preacher, oh Lord, give out the me to him, then every heartbreak now with the Holy Ghost, oh, would feel, oh Lord, oh, would feel, well, people, they would be shouting, praise my God, I hear them still, in that little, oh, that wooden church house,